to a new world of gods and monsters.
If you've seen a new Tom Cruise starring reboot of The Mummy and wondered what that studio-like logo for Dark Universe was, or even if you've just been hearing rumblings of a so-called Dark Universe recently and wanted to know what the deal was, then I'm going to do my best to clear things up for you. Well, to get the obvious out the way first, what is Dark Universe? The Dark Universe is Universal's latest attempt to reboot some of their iconic properties and relaunch their illustrious catalogue of classic monsters back into the public consciousness. Our current film industry is outright dominated by shared universes and colossal billion-dollar franchises. Movie studios now plan their entire release schedules around their tentpole properties, often years in advance, and greenlighting sequels to movies that haven't even been made yet. Fox has the likes of X-Men, DC has its pantheon of superheroes, and Disney owns, well, everything. Even Legendary has its Godzilla and King Kong led Monsterverse. However, even though they're one of the biggest players in the industry, Universal Pictures doesn't really have a competing superhero franchise. They do have the multi-billion-dollar grossing Fast and the Furious franchise, which has kind of transformed itself into a superhero franchise as of late, but they are original characters. Even Dominic Toretto doesn't have that revered global icon status of the likes of Superman, Iron Man, or anything Star Wars related. But something that Universal has up its sleeve is its back catalogue of classic monsters. Dracula, The Mummy, Frankenstein's monster, these are iconic and known to filmgoers of all generations. Universal was built on monsters. Starting with 1923's The Hunchback of Notre Dame right up to the late 1950s, Universal produced dozens of movies centred around monsters with the likes of Lon Chaney Jr., Bela Lugosi, and Boris Karloff. Often based on stories from the 19th century and early 1900s, these have left an enduring legacy. Designs that are still the defining image of these characters to this day. But in the minds of Universal, it's time for a modern update. Kicking off this Dark Universe is The Mummy in theatres now. The Mummy is designed to be the first of a series of standalone films reintroducing these characters, with the next instalment being Bride of Frankenstein, currently penned for a Valentine's Day 2019 release. Now, it's still early doors for the Dark Universe yet, so not much is publicly set in stone. However, there are some key players that have been confirmed. As well as Tom Cruise, Sofia Boutella and Russell Crowe, who all currently star in The Mummy, Dark Universe will incorporate Javier Bardem as Frankenstein's monster, and Johnny Depp as the Invisible Man, which should make a lot of people happy who have been wishing lately Johnny Depp would just vanish. It's also heavily rumoured that Dwayne Johnson is being eyed for the Wolfman, and Angelina Jolie is Universal's first choice for the Bride of Frankenstein. Behind the scenes, the key figures to remember are Alex Kurtzman and Chris Morgan. Kurtzman was the director of this year's Mummy film, as well as one of the producers and one of the 6 credited writers. He'll be taking on the Kevin Feige-esque role of producing and overseeing the Dark Universe as it grows. And you can see in interviews and whatnot that as a lifelong fan of Universal's monsters, he has a real passion for these characters and a sincere desire to do them justice. And hopefully this actually happens without too much studio strong-arming. Chris Morgan was another producer on The Mummy, but is also the writer of the last 6 Fast and the Furious films, and Alex Kurtzman has been involved as a writer in the Mission Impossible, Star Trek and Transformers franchises, so between the two of them, they've had their fair share of guiding a franchise to mega success. It seems for now their intention is to keep these Dark Universe films grounded in our modern world, with more action influences than horror. They will be linked by Prodigium, the mysterious organisation led by Russell Crowe's Henry Jekyll that appears in The Mummy. There are certainly enough Easter eggs in the Prodigium facility scenes of The Mummy to suggest they've already come into contact with several familiar faces from the world of Universal monsters. But how future Dark Universe films will fit together remains to be seen. Kurtzman has said that the intention is to redo the Wolfman, Van Helsing, the Creature from the Black Lagoon, Dracula, Phantom of the Opera, and Hunchback of Notre Dame following those that have already been confirmed, The Bride of Frankenstein and The Invisible Man. There are still no announcements regarding The Invisible Man other than it will star Johnny Depp in the titular role, but you can probably bet that it'll arrive at some point in 2020. The Bride of Frankenstein, on the other hand, does have a few details available. The intended release date is February 24th, 2019, and it'll be directed by Bill Condon. Condon's last film with him in the director's chair was Beauty and the Beast, and he's also directed the likes of Dreamgirls and Breaking Dawn, so he may not be a name that would immediately jump out at you when you think about someone to direct a straight up monster movie, but something to bear in mind is that Condon directed and won an Oscar for writing the 1998 movie Gods and Monsters. Gods and Monsters is a rather touching film about the final days of James Whale, who himself was the director of 1931's Frankenstein and 1935's Bride of Frankenstein. So this is clearly a subject that Bill Condon holds near and dear to his heart, and no doubt wants to do well by one of his inspirations. On writing duties for Bride of Frankenstein is Neil Michael Berger, Dick Whittenborn, and also David Koepp, which I am all for. Koepp has written the likes of Panic Room, Toy Soldiers, Spider-Man, and Mission Impossible, which I all love. But most importantly, Jurassic Park, which is literally in my top 5 movies of all time. And regardless of how The Mummy performs overall, these things make me think that The Bride of Frankenstein, and for the most part, the Dark Universe as a whole, is in good hands. If the studio and filmmakers keep in mind what makes these characters tick, and what makes them iconic to the likes of myself who love the classic Universal monsters, i.e. that these are characters who you fear and yet somehow equally have an affinity for, then I, for one, will be very interested to see where things go. I just hope that in the pursuit of their own MCU, Universal don't dismissively turn some of their most beloved characters into bland action sideshows. As long as they're treated with respect, in a world of black and white, it will be nice to have some grey. Thanks for watching my introduction to Universal's Dark Universe. If you liked it, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button, and if you could share this with a friend, that would be very helpful. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. I will stick a box down there to watch my latest videos, and if I get round to reviewing The Mummy, I'll put that right there too. So again, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.